Every day, farm workers are being exploited for their labor. Women, children, indigenous people, indentured servants, and even slaves are given no money or close to none for their efforts. They provide us with fresh fruits and vegetables for us to eat, while we eat them with no concern about how the food got here or about the conditions of the workers who gave it to us. Why aren't they being compensated for their work? Who's going to do something about it? Why should they? Well, here's the answer to all of that. The UN has addressed underpayment and exploitation of farm workers as an issue because it understands that around the world there are millions upon millions of people that are suffering from underpayment for their rate of productivity. Women, indigenous people, family farmers, pastoralists, and fishers are just some examples of people that are underestimated for their work. Another reason why is because the issue has been brought up by these people for decades, and it won't change until something is done about it. And that's what the United Nations is here to do. They're here to take a stand to the issues that people of allied countries bring up. The era of legal indentured servitude and slavery is a perfect example of historical evidence of underpayment and exploitation. During this period, indentured servants were people that were treated almost like slaves to pay off a debt. They were brought mainly from England. Being able to be treated as a slave only until a debt was paid was considered a payment. Once they did their time, many of them were relieved of their duties, and that brought on the idea of chattel slavery, which involved Africans. Slavery, unlike indentured servitude, was for no payment whatsoever. There was only work and torture for the slaves. According to the National Farm Worker Ministry, from 1865 to 1866, the black codes were created after the Civil War. These were set in place by the government to ensure that blacks were limited with their rights. It also was intended to require black people to have a special permit if they wanted to work in anything other than agricultural labor without pay. The issue of black codes to trap blacks into zero pay, agricultural labor was technically addressed. Though black codes were repealed in 1866, forced agricultural labor still exists today. In prison systems, inmates are treated like slaves, tortured, raped, forced to work without any pay. So the question still stands. Did the issue of black codes and slavery and indentured servitude really get effectively addressed? Or did it get touched on briefly and give rise to new but similar issues? We can ultimately learn from these mistakes to devise effective plans of action. There are a number of ways that underpayment for farm workers can be addressed. It may take some time, but the most obvious way that I can think of, along with most other people, is to stop spending our tax dollars on the military and law enforcement. About $600 billion goes into the military alone. About $100 billion is spent on law enforcement each year, and $80 billion a year on incarceration systems. If that money was rather spent on paying agricultural workers, then this whole issue could be resolved within a snap. There are other solutions beside this one, but this is the most obvious and effective one.